So some of the folks who voted to remain with the European Union were pretty harsh in their reaction to the opposition, calling them racist, stupid, and some other words we can't use on television. Our next guest is one of the folks on the receiving end of some of that anger. Nile Gardiner is the director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. He served as a special advisor to Lady Thatcher, and he was a big supporter of the effort to leave the EU. Nile, good to see you. So we've seen this today that, if you were in favor of leaving the EU, you're stupid. And Charles Cook had an interesting piece out today talking about how his very smart friends would say, are you sure you would be in favor of leaving? All the smart people are in favor of staying. And we've seen a lot of that same disdain in our own country now, depending on what political side of the spectrum you're on. So why did you think it was a good idea, and what do you think Margaret Thatcher would have wanted?
Well, Megan, I think Brexit is a great development for Britain. It's very good for the UK, it's good for Europe, it's good for the United States. This is all about freedom and self-determination. British people retaking control of their own country. And after over 40 years as members of the European Union, it was time for Britain to declare its own independence. The EU has become a supranational entity that suffocates sovereignty and freedom. And the British people voted in huge numbers yesterday to basically declare their independence from the EU. That's a fantastic development, and this is all about retaking control for Britain, advancing democracy, advancing economic liberty and freedom, and it's also about, I think, the return of Great Britain on the world stage as a true world power.
And let's just talk about the money. Let's talk about the money,
because a tremendous amount of benefits actually for the United Kingdom.
The UK is one of 10 member states who pay more into the EU budget than they get out. Just only France and Germany contribute more, and so the EU is paying all this money into the Great Britain is paying all this money into the EU budget, and Poland's getting all the benefits, Hungary's getting a lot of benefits, Greece is getting a lot of benefits. Why did the British folks who supported staying think that was okay?
Well, I mean, I think it's, it sort of beggars belief that people would think that it's good for Britain to hand over 20 billion pounds a year and just get 10 billion pounds back. Basically, the European Union is a large sort of socialist-style redistributive system. It's really an economic basket case in very deep decline. Britain has been subsidizing the European Union for many, many decades. And enough is enough. As Margaret Thatcher said, the European project is perhaps the greatest folly of the modern era. And what the British people have done is basically throw a lifeboat off the Titanic, and they've jumped on board that lifeboat. And the Titanic's heading in only one direction, towards a massive iceberg, and that's where the EU is headed. It's an institution in very deep decline. It's run by faceless, unaccountable bureaucrats, and there is deep disillusionment with the EU, not only in Britain but across Europe as well. And I'm in no doubt that Brexit will spark a series of referendums across Europe, and you are going to see people all over the European continent expressing their disdain for the European Union.
Well, what about, we're already hearing that there may be some disdain for England. Already there's some rumblings that Scotland may now want out of the UK, perhaps Northern Ireland. I mean, what kind of effect does that have if it happens? Because they wanted to stay in the EU.
Yeah, certainly I think the Scots are the most pro-EU among all of the British people, and certainly there's a renewed call for a referendum on Scottish independence. But I think the Scots should bear this in mind, that if they decide to leave the United Kingdom, they, of course, would have to anyway apply to join the European Union. They'd also have to apply to join the NATO alliance. Spain has already said that they would definitely veto any Scottish application because of their own separatist internal problems. And so the Scots would be completely on their own. But the vast majority of British people, I think, really want to see change. This referendum on the European Union was all about political change. It's all about reasserting sovereignty and self-determination. These are universal principles that the American people cherish so deeply. And I think that Brexit is wonderful news for Britain. It's wonderful news for America as well. It's going to advance prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, based upon economic liberty and political freedom.
Nile, great to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you, Megan. Thank you.